Yeah, that kind of leads into my next question. I was going to ask, you work with some of the best investors in the state, probably the country. What do you see, maybe, two or three things that you see these successful investors doing over and over again that really set them apart from everybody else that you work with?
Jeff, there's a couple things. The main one is they always have cash on hand, meaning regardless of the number of projects that they're taking on, they're always sitting on a bankroll that they can tap into in case things go wrong. Anytime I've seen a market shift, meaning your ARVs are lower than what you expected, and you have 10 projects going on at a time, that can be a domino effect, and you can quickly find yourself in the hole. But a lot of these investors, they tend to, for instance, on the last market shift not too long ago, a lot of investors actually cut their losses and moved on and reset their underwriting criteria. Now, the investors that held on for longer were bleeding for longer and are still recovering today. So definitely having cash on hand for any project that you're doing. Let's dive deeper into what I mean there. Yeah. Having 6 to 12 months of reserves is a healthy amount. So cash on hand is the number one. Number two is they always have a constant pipeline of deals, whether it's a marketing machine that they're running on them by themselves, or whether that's creating a sphere of wholesalers and people in the market that are always sending them deals. That's the second piece. And then lastly, it's the execution, controlling their execution either by having contractors they trust, or by, as a matter of fact, understanding when your contractor's over leveraged and bringing in new crews, or even firing the contractor. So being a former general contractor, I didn't really dive into the details there, but when you're in the execution phase after you bought the property, your biggest risk is something going wrong in the construction piece. So you have to manage your contractors. It's not like you buy the property, give them the keys, and say, see you later. Let me know when the project's done. You actually have to manage them, make sure that they're following your designs to the T, fixing anything, making sure they're not cutting corners. But those are the three things: cash on hand, a strong pipeline of deals coming in, and then managing their contractors effectively.
Okay. Those are really great tips. Yeah. I mean, the other thing that I see is people continuing to focus on that earned income. And that kind of ties into all of your points that you just made, really. But, people don't just, if the successful people, they don't just buy a deal, start working on it, and then take their finger off the pulse of their other businesses, or maybe their wholesale income, or even their W-2 income, right? They keep the earned income flowing to be able to manage any sort of risks with higher construction costs or anything else going on. So you really do have to keep, multiple, I would say, streams of income going, and just, multiple irons in the fire, and just, a lot of things moving at the same time. Yeah. So multitasking is a must.
I'm glad you pointed that out. That is something that I see amongst a lot of investors, where they almost have like 3 pillars of income generating activities, whether that's wholesale or real estate agent commissions, flips, and even wholesale transactions. And then, of course, the last one is they keep some of these properties to continue to grow their wealth and tax purposes. But if you're just starting out in real estate, the number one thing I would say is surround yourself around people that are farther ahead, that are on the same track that you want to be, but are farther ahead, whether that is a close group of people or even mentors, because you don't know what you don't know. And those group of people will help bounce ideas off, and you can ask questions on whether a deal is a deal or not. So that's what I would say. If you're starting out, definitely surround yourself around folks that are doing what it is that you want to do and are farther ahead.
For sure. What percentage, just high level, I'm a big, buy to own and hold long-term proponent. What percentage of folks do you work with? You work with a lot of flippers and developers. What percentage would you say actually takes some of those flips and holds them as rentals long-term versus the folks that are consistently kind of on that additional hamster wheel of like flipping with no end in sight?
I would say it's much more geographic dependent.
Okay.
Meaning anyone flipping or building in high price point markets a lot of their income is coming either through flips or new construction developments, but very rarely do you see them keep a property. Out of a single in Seattle, we have these ADU packs where you can build a single family, an attached ADU and a detached ADU. Out of those, I see them keeping maybe one. And then out of larger townhome developments where they're building 7 or 8 townhomes at once, they're keeping at least one, if any.
Okay.
So it's a very low percentage. Most people in high price home markets are actually selling. And then the folks that I see keeping or borrowing more properties are actually in the Southeast or the Midwest. So Ohio is very popular right now. Cash flow is great, appreciation not so much, and same with the Southeast. You've got North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida, where I'm seeing most folks actually keep properties for long-term and rentals because it's got stronger cash flow than higher price point markets.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I see a lot of people, a few people that I really follow on social media that really have it dialed in terms of, I think it is the Ohio market, buying a property for $100,000, putting 50 into it, and then it's worth $200,000 or whatever it may be, and then putting $140,000 loan on it, barely keeping, or maybe even $150,000 loan, recapitalizing, and then they're actually able to cash flow with a $150,000 mortgage on that $200,000 property, and maybe renting it for, let's say, $1,500 a month. So those types of deals, you can just rinse and repeat over and over again and really build a massive portfolio with single family rentals, just because the numbers work out so well like that in that area. But to your point, when you're in the Seattle market, at a $700,000 to $800,000 entry price point, even if you are able to create 30% margin on the front house plus the dadu, you might be breaking even with that 35% margin. So you really do have to continue to keep that earned income coming in, or flip other types of properties. Really not be solely focused on cash flow for those types of deals. So it's just an interesting dynamic when you really have to understand the market in your own backyard to understand kind of what's the play there. What do you where do you see the market? Oh, go ahead.
And there's two. I'm glad you bring it up. There's two dynamics there. It's one school of thought where a lot of investors early on are focused on, hey, I want to replace my W-2 with cash flow. And then there's another school of thought of, hey, I'm young, I'm making good money, I'm in the growth phase, and I'm going to not focus on cash flow, but just focus on growing my portfolio, even if it means that I'm breaking even. And one of them focuses on cash flow, getting rid of the W-2. But if you're in a high price point market like the greater Seattle area, I think focusing on growth and acquiring good real estate in prime locations is a far superior strategy, because the appreciation is much larger than any of the cash flow, where you can 1031 easily within a couple of years into larger projects and grow your portfolio faster. So those are two interesting dynamics that a lot of folks starting on earlier tend to struggle with, for sure.
Right.